President, I wanted to let everyone know that the meeting is being recorded. So if you speak, we're going to share this meeting out. If you're on screen, you don't want to be, feel free to turn your camera off. But if you participate, you'll be part of a recording. We pulled this meeting together after meeting with Mr. Juli about homecoming and last year's policies and going forward this year's policy as to the keeping of students in the school. Mr. Juli can talk about this more, but the short of it, as I understand it, he could correct it, is that last year students, once they were in, they were not permitted to leave on their own, and a great number attempted to go to house parties or whatever, unaccompanied by parents. And that caused significant concern for the school because of the possibility that students will be party hopping and getting into cars intoxicated, and just a general risk when the school, when parents believed that the school had their children under their care and that the parents didn't know. And so we suggested this series of meetings to this morning and this later this evening at 7 in order to inform parents of the plan for homecoming, the rationale behind it, allow parents to ask questions. And then the hope, of course, for us is that I see there's maybe about 15 people on the call now, that those parents who are here will make sure to let others know, and it will not be a surprise to parents or their children when they show up to homecoming dance that they aren't able to leave at 8:40 to go to a house party. So with that, I will thank everybody for joining us this morning, and I will turn it over to Mr. Juli.
Thanks very much. Morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning. It's our first PTO Zoom chat in quite some time. We did these regularly during COVID, so I could update folks about what our protocols were and what was happening. I'm thankful to be talking about different topics today for sure. So I figured I would use this time this morning to talk about homecoming, which is coming up, and also talk about FlexBlock, which started yesterday. And then open up first to questions about homecoming or FlexBlock, and then with whatever time we have left, answer whatever questions you may have that are on your mind. Again, we're recording this so that folks who aren't available now or this evening can watch this at their convenience. Okay, so homecoming is coming up. The game is on Friday, October 6th, and the dance is on Friday, October 7th. The dance is happening from 8 to 11 p.m. in the North Gym. Students got an email this morning with lots of details, and I believe the parent email, I don't think I've gotten it yet as a parent, but I believe it's going out today or tomorrow. But a couple of things that we want all parents to know so that we can be on the same page together and have this be a great event for our kids. First and foremost, every student has to have their Shaker ID in order to enter the dance. Students are allowed to bring one outside guest, only one. And there's a form that they can pick up in the office, and it's also linked in the email that students got to bring an outside guest to the dance. That form has to be signed by an administrator at another school. This is a standard form that every school uses. I sign dozens of these every year for kids going to homecoming or prom at other schools, and we do the same for our students. A student coming from outside of school also has to have a photo ID, their school ID, a driver's license, a non-driving state ID. We need to be able to identify who that guest is, just as we need to be able to identify all of our Shaker students. Doors to the dance open at 8. and they close to guests at 9 p.m. Everyone who is coming to homecoming has to arrive by 9 p.m. As I think I said, the dance runs until 11 p.m. And we say, and it's in writing, and I'm saying it now, that nobody is permitted to leave the dance before 10:30 p.m. And for us, this is a safety issue. Students have said that they're going to homecoming. They've told, we've advertised that the dance is from 8 to 11, and what we don't want is kids to walk into the dance, check in, and then head out 15 minutes later and have parents believe that we have responsibility for your children, and when in fact they're elsewhere and neither you nor I know where they are. And so we take student safety incredibly seriously, and homecoming is intended to be a wonderful and fun night. And also around the country, every year at homecoming dances, something tragic happens, and we want to do everything that we possibly can to avoid any kind of tragedy at Shaker Heights High School. And that starts with knowing where our students are when they're supposed to be at the dance. And so last year, what happened was students just wanted to leave early, and 3 students turned into 10 students, and rapidly turned into several hundred students who wanted to leave early. And we want to avoid that happening this year. The dance is fun. There's music is loud. There are some students who could certainly be overwhelmed by just the volume of the music, and we have places for people to go to take a break. In an extreme situation, parents can reach out to me and we can work something out to potentially leave early, but we're not going to have a mass attempted exodus this year, as we did last year. And what I'm hoping that everybody on this call will do is spread the word that this isn't intended to be anything other than proactively focused on safety, to ensure that students are at the dance with us when you think they're at the dance with us, and that when they leave, hopefully they are checking in with you and heading someplace equally safe to spend the rest of their evening with friends. A second message that I'd really like help delivering is, our students are going to go to parties after homecoming, and I don't think there's anything wrong with going to a party. What I worry about is party hopping. When students are put in the position to potentially, be drinking and then driving from house to house. And so, a message that I'm looking to get some help in delivering is, go where you're going to go after homecoming, be with your friends, have fun, have it be safe, and stay there until you're either picked up by a parent or you're spending the night. The piece that I really want us to avoid is students moving from home to home, looking for the best party, looking for the best place to be, because that's when things that are unsafe can potentially occur. So those are the 2 homecoming messages that I really want to get the word on about. Again, that we want students to that we expect students to stay at the dance until 10:30. They cannot arrive after 9 p.m. And then again, once the dance is over, to head to one place and stay there and be safe, and have a really fun evening. Just looking at my homecoming notes to see if there's anything that I missed out on. Oh, yeah, we also will be searching bags upon entrance, and there's no reason that anybody should be bringing backpacks, but occasionally kids have backpacks, with clothing that they want to change into after the dance. We'll search all bags and purses to make sure that nothing is coming into the dance that we wouldn't want on school property. So with that, let's pause, and I'll open up just homecoming specific questions or anything you need clarification on.
Mr. Juli, can you talk a little bit? I know you said there are areas for kids to go so that parents can discuss it with them. Can you discuss what those areas look like?
Yeah, so we do this dance in the North Gym, and the whole gym is set up for the dance. There's some tables in the I guess so when you walk in, if you've walked into the North Gym before, when you walk in, we've got some tables there with water, and it's sort of away from the dance floor. The dance floor is on the far end of the gym. And then we've got the North Gym lobby where we check tickets. And once all of our students are checked in, we move those tables away. And that's a place for students to take a breath and have a break from dancing and from the loud music. And then for students who may be particularly sensitive to the loud noise and the heat of a dance, there's a hallway area that's private that goes from the North Gym to the Raider Athletic Center where the strength and conditioning classes are, and there's some offices there. We can bring students there. If for some reason a parent needs to pick up a student early, we require that the parent comes to the door and speaks with an adult. We can't just have a phone call saying, I'm dismissing my child, because, as we all know, and maybe did ourselves as children, you can always have a friend call and say, hey, I'm so-and-so's parent. So again, as an added layer of safety, we require that an adult come and pick up their child, should that be absolutely necessary. And we really want that to be, that's the key phrasing, should that be absolutely necessary. I don't think it's an outrageous or unrealistic expectation that students are at a dance, through the time, through till 10:30. If there's something that needs to be talked about individually, people can feel free to reach out to me before the dance, but that's our expectation.
Now, also realizing that is an exception that parents pick up, can you discuss also one parent picking up multiple children as has been done in the past?
Yeah, that's not something that thank you for raising that. That's not something that we want to do. Have a parent come and say, I'm taking these 12 students, because, while it may be fine, it may not be. And we're not sitting there with the computer to be able to check who has guardianship of each of those 12 students. And we certainly wouldn't want to send somebody home with anyone that a parent felt uncomfortable with. And so it's our intent this year to only send students home with their parent. And again, this is only referring to the rare instance of a student having to leave early. There's no expectation that every parent is coming to pick up their child at the end of the dance. We're only talking about the hopefully rare occurrence of somebody needing to leave early. When the dance is over, kids leave and they go home with their friends. They go home with parents, and we're not checking at that time. So this is just for people who are leaving early.
Yes, sir. Good morning. This is Chris Douglas. I have a question regarding the policy to not allow students to leave before 22:30 or 10:30 p.m.
Yeah,
that sounds like a good policy. My question is, how do you intend to enforce that? Is that parents, volunteer parents or chaperones at each of the exits and entry points? Is it Shaker Heights Police Department? Just curious what the plan is there. Thanks.
Yeah, it's a good question. Thank you. It is, we enforce it with my security team and my team of administrators. And so we have adults at every single entry point, inevitably, having nothing to do with safety, but there's always somebody who forgot to buy a ticket, who wishes they could bring in a friend from another school and they didn't do the process. And so, every year there are kids who try and sneak into the dance through some other door to our building. And there's a lot of doors at Shaker Heights High School. So we have all of those entrances and exits covered. There's no access to the rest of the building at homecoming. It's just the North Gym area that students have access to. And my security team and my administrators are covering them. We'd love to have some parent volunteers, but we wouldn't have you covering doors just because that can be a complicated task, and so we would use parents in a different way. SHPD is not at the dance the whole time. They're aware of the dance. They have cruisers out, and they are going around the oval extensively just to make sure everything is safe. But they really only come to the dance we have one officer who's at the dance the whole time, and then other officers only come if I call, which is rarely, if ever, necessary. Thanks for the question.
So Julie, I know this is abundantly obvious, but I figure it's worth mentioning. It's fair to say that the building is not locked from the inside such that there would be any danger in a fire, etc.
No, that violates any number of federal and state fire code laws. There are, let's see, off the top of my head, there are I think 5 or 6 ways to exit the North Gym area should there be an emergency, and nothing is locked from the inside. But that's why we have a security monitor or an assistant principal stationed in the interior at each door to help people leave if that's what needs to happen, but also to stop people from coming in and stop people from leaving early, without people knowing. Any other questions about homecoming?
Is there a dress code?
So no, a dress code is not a term that I would use associated with homecoming. Kids tend to get pretty dressed up, not black tie in terms of like a prom. I would say that there are always kids who are there in jeans and something more casual, and then there's the guidelines and the student code of conduct are still expected to be followed. So that includes, and I don't have it right in front of me, but that includes nothing with any foul language on it. We need to be able to identify who students are, so you can't wear a hood, a ski mask, and sunglasses, and you have to have your body covered in some way that we or a child wouldn't be accused of having somebody nude at the dance. So that's that. So the student code of conduct pieces are still in place, and it's fancy but not black tie. Other wonderings or questions about homecoming? That's a good example of a question that's not about safety, but also important for people to know. So, anything homecoming related, I'm happy to answer. Okay, it's really a wonderful event. Kids have a great time, win or lose at the football game the night before, and we're having a great season. So hopefully we have another win on that night as well. As you hopefully spread the word about this and people watch the video once we post it online, if there are, individual needs that your family or that a student may have, feel free to reach out to me and we can talk about them. But our standard expectation is dances from 8 to 11. All students have to be in the dance by 9 p.m. No students are allowed to leave until 10:30 p.m. And we'll be searching all bags and would prefer that none come in. But if they do, we'll be searching them. All right, let's switch gears to FlexBlock. So if you don't read it already, I want to urge people to check out the Sunday night email that comes out from the district. That is the e-news, and there's a link to each school's news and notes. And so I wrote about it. Comes out Sunday evening at 7 p.m. and it's really a one-stop shop for everything that's happening at the high school. My assistant Lori Brem sends it out again on Monday. Because we know that not everybody has the opportunity to look at it over the weekend. So we resend just the high school piece usually on Monday afternoon. So if you aren't reading that, I urge you to read it. This past Sunday, I wrote about FlexBlock, and FlexBlock began yesterday here at the high school. And so FlexBlock is a different kind of learning that we introduced at our school last year. This is year 2 of FlexBlock, and so I like to call it learning by doing. We have students who are really great at learning in traditional classes. The teacher says, here's what I want you to do. Here's how I want you to do it. Please give it back to me on this date, or we're going to have a test on this date. Let's talk in groups about this or that. And we have students who are experts at doing school in that way. We also have students who really struggle with doing school in that way, who love to learn on their own, are fascinated by, going down the rabbit hole of some topic that they're interested in, but really have trouble in the confines of a traditional classroom. And so FlexBlock is an opportunity to learn by doing and have the application of learning be the focus of a couple of hours each week. So I know that in my job and in many of your positions, there aren't always clear, cut and dry answers to the questions that we have to solve. I deal with very open-ended challenges. And I have to figure out how to be a creative problem solver. And so FlexBlock is an opportunity to ask questions of students that there isn't a clear answer to, or that maybe the teacher doesn't know, and that they're going to learn together. And so, FlexBlock is about asking, what if, and how might we, and what's a creative way to do something that we haven't done before. And so what we did this year, we have community partners, and we have teachers leading FlexBlock opportunities. And we've got opportunities for internships and job shadowing as well. And so, I said this the night of the welcome that we did for 9th grade parents. But if my child is a senior this year, and if a student were to say, I think I want to go to architecture school, we want to be able to use FlexBlock to find an architecture firm in our area to have an internship, right? Better to find out through our FlexBlock program that, to confirm that you love the idea of being an architect and want to apply to architecture school, or confirm that you thought you wanted to go to architecture school, but really didn't like the internship because you didn't realize that this is what it entailed to be an architect. Better to do that in high school than apply to, then apply to architecture school and decide it's not for you. So we want kids starting with a problem and ending with an audience. We want kids out in the community learning by doing. We want kids side by side with their teachers in environments that are not traditional classes, doing things that the students and the teachers are passionate about. And so last week we had our students rank we had a big presentation with many slides of all of the different options. And then we had students rank their top 3 preferences. Everybody was guaranteed to get at least one of their top preferences. And then yesterday was the first time that students went to the class. A couple of changes this year. FlexBlock from 2 to 3 on Tuesdays and Thursdays is mandatory. It is part of the school day. Some FlexBlocks go from 3 to 4, others go from 2 to 4, and the students who are signed up for those know that the expectation is they'll be there from 3 to 4, or from 2 to 4. The only thing that we're making mandatory is from 2 to 3. This is part of the school day. We purchased some new software that allows us to attach FlexBlock to PowerSchool and take attendance in FlexBlock. So we'll be able to notify families when a student doesn't attend. This is not graded, but it is still expected, and we want kids to pick what they want to pick, and we'll let kids switch if they pick something that they thought would be great and it turned out not to be great. And so this is intended to be learning through a different vehicle than a traditional class. One other component to this is that we do have students who are struggling academically, and so we have a mandatory intervention piece to this. We're starting with the following classes as intervention. 10th grade English, because there's a required graduation test associated with it. Algebra 1, because there's a required graduation test associated with it. And physical science and global studies. Physical science and global studies because we have the highest percentage of 9th graders who get D's or F's in those 2 classes. And so we do have a set of students. We're starting our focus in Algebra 1 and in English 10 with 12th graders and 11th graders who have not yet passed the graduation test. And we've made intervention in one or both of those subjects mandatory to help them pass the test that they need to be able to pass in order to graduate. For physical science and global studies, we're looking at the current data that we've got, plus whatever data we have from last year. So we're paying attention to the fact if a 9th grader failed either of those classes last year or struggled in either of those classes last year. But what we're primarily focused on is a student's attendance. There's some important research that says that students who miss 3 or 4 days in September are far more likely to struggle in the class all year long. Now that's not an absolute statement. Kids get sick, they get the flu, they're out, and then they're not, and then they're not out for the rest of the year. But we're talking about students who are not dealing with illness and who are missing 3 to 4 days in September. That suggests that there's going to be some challenges during the year. And so we're looking at that group of students. We're also looking at, based on the number of homework assignments that any teacher in physical science or global studies has given to date, what students have completed less than 50% of those. And that's the beginning of our intervention list in global studies and physical science. There are what I'm calling off-ramps for physical science and global studies. If you're somebody who has missed some school, has fallen behind, is just getting used to the pace of high school, and we get you caught up, and you're showing that you're on track and all is well, then you won't have to go to the mandatory flex block anymore, and you can pick from the vast list. We're also we're also making sure that anybody who has a mandatory flex block also has the opportunity to do something fun. There are, potentially a handful of seniors who were really trying to get to the finish line who may just have just the mandatory interventions, but there's an agreement then with those families, or there will be an agreement with those families that this is what we're doing to ensure that we get to give their child a diploma in June. But if anyone's struggling, we still want them to also have opportunity to do all of the fun stuff. So there's a vast catalog of flex block options. One of the new ones that we're doing this year, I'm not going to read through the whole list, but one of the new ones that we're doing this year that I'm really excited about, that I think is representative of the kinds of things that we're trying to do in flex block, is Ellen Roberts, one of our Spanish teachers, plays the guitar. And she was interested in having kids learn guitar with her, and I'm interested. I've always wanted to have students build their own guitars, and so we are purchasing a bunch of different kits to see which ones are the best. Kids are going to build the guitar from these kits. It'll be their guitar, and then they're going to learn how to play the guitar. And so that's, there's not Ellen Roberts has never done that. I've never done that. I'm assuming that the students who are in the group have never done that. And so it's school in a different way, right? How can we figure this out together? Which is the best kit, and why? What are the tools that we need? And then when it's done, let's learn how to play guitar. And not everybody's going to learn to play the same song. And it's just another way to get at the kind of learning that we want to have here at Shaker Heights High School, and it links directly to being an IB school, right? And so for those of you on the call who have had your children in Shaker schools since elementary school, that our kids, and I've two kids who have been in the Shaker schools since kindergarten, and when they were in elementary school, our kids came home and talked about the IB learner profile, and we're being inquirers today, and we're being communicators, and we're being principled, and these words don't go away in high school just because we're focused on chemistry or algebra 2 or world history, right? We still want our kids to be thinking and problem solving and writing and engaging and struggling in a safe way to solve open-ended problems. And so that is the purpose of Flex Block. So I've said a lot there. So a couple of comments. What questions do you have for me? What further clarity can I offer about Flex Block?
Mr. Juli, while you were talking, I was looking in Power School, and I don't see anything in Power School listing what my child is doing for Flex Block. Should that be evident?
Yeah, not yet. It's evident to teachers as of yesterday. We purchased an add-on that's called the Adaptive Scheduler, and so teachers can see it, and students have a link now in their email so they can see it. And we're just trying to learn from the company how to share it with all of you. So it's coming, hopefully this week. Other questions about Flex Block?
Hi, Mr. Juli, this is Jennifer. So Flex Block is there's two Flex blocks per week, is what I understand from my daughter. Is that correct?
Yes, Tuesdays and Thursdays from 2 to 3.
Okay, and then that's per semester. So will it rotate next semester?
Yes, students will have the opportunity to choose different Flex Blocks or the same, the second time around.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
The person with Audrey's iPad, I don't know if it's Audrey or not. I saw your question in the chat. Did you want to add to that before I answer that?
Yes. Hi, I'm sorry. It's actually Naomi Hollander. It's her mom.
Hey, how you doing?
Couple of questions. So it's sort of two-leveled. One is there are some seniors that took extra classes, like zero period classes, with the anticipation that the Flexbox, they had the opportunity last year to just go home and work on that extra work that they were doing. And now they have a mandatory time that they were hoping to use for study time for this extra 8th class. Are there options for them to do that instead, either to go home and do that or a study hall within the school? Because, you know, it is a very difficult time for seniors, as many of them are preparing for college applications. So they have limited time, and then they have all their extracurriculars. And within that, is there a flex block that could be developed for seniors to work on post-graduation plans, whether that be college searches or post-college other plans, or working on their applications? And a lot of those college visits happen during their regular periods. Could they be moved to the flex time so that they weren't missing class to go to those college visits that are happening in school? So it's sort of a multi-tiered question. Thank you.
I got you. Yeah, I'll do my best to hit all of those. So I'm looking through the list of all the flex blocks now, the whole catalog, and I don't, you know, there are some study table type things, but they're group specific, and so right now I don't have an adult to supervise what you're asking for, and this needs to be adult supervised time. I do want to bring up, because I thought of it when you were talking, there are a couple of classes that are happening during Flex Block. For example, second year students or seniors in the IB diploma program are taking theories of knowledge during Flex Block. So that's a class. There's also a strength and conditioning class. And I believe there's one more that I've lost the name of, but I think there's a third class that's happening during FlexBlock. So that's class time for those students, and they have something a little bit different. So we're not, so students who leave early would need to be leaving early for an internship, which is, or a job shadowing thing. Both of those are great for college applications. This is part of the school day. And also, I would urge all senior families to, take a look at the catalog. There's plenty of things in here that are great for college applications. And so I get that seniors have a lot on their plate. My senior, in addition to a full course load at Shaker Heights High School, is also taking a college credit plus Russian class through Tri-C outside of school hours, and my senior also really enjoys the flex block programming, as well. So no, there isn't a specific flex block at this point for college application stuff. That would have to be really a first semester flex block, and just like we're giving students the choice to sign up for the flex blocks they want, we also gave teachers the choice, and all adults in the building, to create the flex blocks that they were interested in. So I don't have anybody for that at this time. Other questions?
Mr. Juli, can you speak a little to the impetus behind making the flex block go from sort of optional to mandatory? Does it have anything to do with state requirements of how much time kids are learning in a building?
Yeah, that's exactly what it has to do with it. It has to do, there's a requirement for instructional minutes. And this happens during the school day. At the high water mark last year, and last year was the first year of the program, we had about 850 students attending FlexBlock regularly, which for the first year of something brand new is pretty good. And also that's the glass half full part. And on the other side of it, we have just under 1,500 students. So that's a whole group of students that were not engaged in this. And so we were calling FlexBlock last year from 2 to 4 to include conference time that happens every day from 3 to 4. And so we changed our thinking on that. And while there continue to be FlexBlocks that go until 4, we've only made mandatory the time from 2 to 3, which puts it in line with the end of every single day. And make sure that every student is meeting the state requirement for instructional time. Thanks for asking that. Other questions or wonderings? It looks like my camera has disappeared here, but hopefully you can still hear my voice. There we go, I'm back. So all of the students have access to the catalog. I believe that there was a link to it in the Sunday night newsletter. If there was not, I'll find out after this call and we'll send it out to families today so that everybody can see the catalog. Any other wonderings about FlexBlock? Thank you. All right, so we've got about 17 minutes left of our time. So I'd like to open it up to any questions that you may have about what's happening or upcoming at Shaker Heights High School. This is what you call wait time from a teacher.
Julie, I'm going to assume there are no further questions. So I will conclude at least the PTO's portion by advocating for anybody who can to get involved with PTO. We still have PTO executive positions that are unfilled. We'd love to have people help show teachers appreciation, make sure that school programs are supported from the PTO, and do everything else that the dedicated members of the PTO do. So if you can get involved, join us at meetings, join us on the board. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, I want to echo that as well. The PTO, it feels easier to get involved in PTO at the elementary level because schools are smaller, and also high school kids don't necessarily always want us around as parents. But it's just an incredibly important organization that really makes an impact on our school. And any help that you can offer, we certainly appreciate.
I did have a question. You had mentioned you would welcome parent volunteers at homecoming. What's the process for that?
So you could email our person who's in charge of homecoming. Her name is Sarah Chengelis. It's CHENGELIS. Everybody's email in the district is last name _ first initial. So in this case, it's Chengelis _ S at shaker.org. And, you know, sometimes we have parents help checking kids in, you know, passing out food, a little bit of food and drink. There's some snacks. And so if you're interested in helping out, please reach out to Sarah, and she can, yeah, thank you for putting that in. She can find a way for you to help. I also saw a positive comment about curriculum night. I really appreciate that. It's a long day and night for teachers, but we really work hard to have it be a positive event and give you a sense of what's happening with your children in school. And so I hope it was positive and continues to be positive. All right, with that, I think we will call it one more call for any last questions or wonderings. Seeing and hearing none, thank you very much for joining this morning. Please spread the word that we'll be posting this chat on both, I think, the PTO webpage and then the high school page, and just spread the word about what you've heard about FlexBlock, and also our expectations around homecoming. I'm really looking for help on that this year, so there are no surprises for any students or families. And then if you thought this was worthwhile, we're doing it again tonight at 7 p.m. Not that you need to attend again, but if you can spread the word to people you know that it was worthwhile, and maybe they'll be able to attend. Thanks very much, everybody. Have a great day.